Good morning, YouTube. I've been using my iPhone 5S for just under 2 weeks. This is a 16 gig version, and I guess it's no surprise how much memory is being used up quickly. I only have 3 gigs available now on my 16 gig phone, as you can see there. I wanted to get a 64 gig, but I couldn't find a 64 gig, so I'm moving to a 32 gig. So let's check out the 32 gig. This time I got the gold one, which I have actually yet to see in person, so I'm excited to see what all the fuss is about. Okay, here we go. Wow, looks quite different than the black one, I must say. I like the white face. Everything else in the box, I'm sure, is exactly the same, and it is. So that's what the gold one looks like. Oh, looks okay, not too bad. Wow, it's a really light gold. I wouldn't have even called this gold. This is champagne. Okay, let's remove the plastic. Wow. It's an interesting look. So this here is the 32 gig model. So let me go ahead and turn it on. Although I have switched from one Android phone to another countless times, this is the first time I'm switching from one iPhone over to another. I'm pretty familiar with how the Android functionality is as far as backing up your Android device's data and settings and apps to Google and then restoring it back to a new device works. Doesn't work very well. In fact, I don't even use it at all. I have been curious to see how it works on the iPhone, so that's what I'm gonna find out right now. So if I go into my usage again, as you can see, if I go into iCloud, I have a bunch of my iCloud space, about 3.5 gigs of it is used for a backup of this phone, as you can see there. And if I click on that, you can see what all is backed up. So you can see that my apps are backed up along with settings. My photos are also backed up to iCloud. I also use Dropbox for that feature, so I don't need to restore. I can't say I really like the way it works. I think Dropbox works perfect, so all I'm kind of curious today to see is how quickly my apps come back and my settings come back. So let's switch phones now. So I'm going to go ahead now and set up my 32 gig phone. So I'm going to try to set this up as quickly as I can. May take a few minutes to activate your. Please insert a SIM card. Okay, so let me go ahead and do that next. So for the last 14 days now, I've been using this iPhone as my daily driver, and I really miss Android. I feel like iOS seems so basic compared to the flexibility and control that you get with Android. but I really must say I do like the hardware. The hardware is awesome. My favorite thing about the hardware is the fingerprint sensor. I'm really going to miss that going back to Android, where I have to like push a button to turn the phone on, especially with the HTC One, where you have to push that little power button on top. The Samsung isn't bad because it still has a home button that you get to push, so it's slightly less, but for sure I'll miss the fingerprint sensor the most. I'm not going to miss iOS when I go back to Android, and I'm definitely not going to miss this little screen. Enable location services. Restore from iCloud Backup. Okay, so let me put in my Apple ID here. So I expect this to be a pretty quick process because I'm not restoring photos, which was the bulk of the data that was taken up in my iCloud. Yesterday at 6:26 p.m. Let's go with that one. Latest iPhone backup. Restoring settings. Time remaining. I'm very curious to see what all is restored. Are my the shortcuts on my desktop restored? Are my wallpapers restored? Are podcasts that I downloaded restored, which I don't think they are. We know the photos are not coming back, and I don't usually have much in terms of music stored on my device because I just use RDO, which actually does let you store files locally, and it gets synced pretty easily. Okay, so we're back. Enter finish setting. Enter my password again, okay? This fingerprint scanner, the Touch ID, has far exceeded my expectations. For the first couple of days that I was using it, I didn't think it worked perfectly, but I think if you if you're just careful in how you set it up, and if you set your finger up correctly, if you take the trouble to set it up correctly, it works really, really well. It works consistently pretty much all the time, and it's very fast. Okay, so now my thumb should be registered. There we go. Okay. Welcome to iPhone Get Started. Okay, so what do we get now? Wow. That's great. Look at that. My wallpaper was restored. My shortcuts were restored. And it looks like my apps are getting restored. So although I would say iCloud is nowhere as good as Google or Dropbox's photo backup setups, I think the way you can go from one iPhone to another is better than Android, based on what I've seen today. Okay, so I'm going to let my phone finish up. iOS has finished restoring all my apps, as well as settings like my wallpaper. However, most logins are not remembered, so you have to log into every account, which is kind of what I expected, but surprisingly, some things were already logged in. I didn't have to log back into Instagram, but I did have to log back into Facebook. I didn't have to log into YouTube, but I did have to log into Google+. And I'm supposed to have to log into Twitter? Yeah, I have to log into Twitter. But yeah, overall I would say the process is better than Android because settings come back. With Android it's difficult because if you're moving from different manufacturers of phones, you have you're going from one skin to another skin, so it's hard for settings are not going to transfer over. And even within manufacturers, usually settings don't transfer over because Google's not going to hold your HTC Sense or Samsung settings. I'm quite surprised to see that even message logs and call logs were restored. That was not something that I was expecting. Let's go into the storage now. So just restoring my apps alone took up 3 gigs already right there. And I didn't even bring back any of my pictures, but it looks like podcasts did come back. Okay, but in general it is a pretty easy process. I don't think it's a fair comparison though because of the fact that in Apple's case you're going from iPhone to iPhone, which means everything is the same. In Android, unless you're going from a Nexus to a Nexus, things are pretty different. But if we're going to compare iPhone to iPhone versus, say, Nexus to Nexus, the Apple process is probably still more convenient. Okay, that's it. Thank you for watching.